Hi everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we're now live in our Spiritual Empowerment Community Facebook group. That's one of my 2 free Facebook groups. So every month we have a free class in here. Last month our class was all about animals and the afterlife. On purpose, I chose a topic that was a little bit more fun and light-hearted, although it's not light when our animals are on the other side. But I picked something that was a little bit lighter on purpose because we're in the middle of dealing with the COVID-19 situation. And this topic today, animal totems, really feels like a good extension of last month's free class. So right now we have some people joining us live. Hi there. Let us know where you're joining from. And just a quick shout out to all the people watching the replay on Facebook, and also hello to everybody on my YouTube channel. I really appreciate you guys. So, you know, I like to get into a lot of content, so grab a pen and paper and we're going to take some notes. Today we're going to talk about animal totems and animal guardians and how I define them and what's the difference. And I'm also going to share a few stories. So, hey everybody, good to see you all. So I know some of you, I just want to say this for the benefit of those of you on YouTube. I think sometimes those who are watching on YouTube want to get straight to the content, and I totally get that. But we're here on Facebook Live because we're also developing relationship and bantering a little bit. So I hope you can be patient with that as we do that in most of our videos. So let's go ahead and just do shout outs, and then we're going to get into our content. So, and I'm here in hot, sunny Tucson, and I love the heat. My skin is adjusting. I'm trying to figure out how to not scorch out here. I'm constantly putting lotion on. So hang on. I'm trying to see everybody. Give me a second. Mandy Marie, Maya, are you still in KC? No, I actually moved to Tucson in last November. I didn't want to spend another winter in the Midwest, so I got out of Dodge. So I am in Tucson, and then of course there's not a lot of traveling happening because of the virus, so I haven't been back yet, but at some point I will be, but luckily we have online avenues as well. Good to see you, Mandy. Kat is saying, hi Maya from Gladstone, Missouri, part of the Kansas City area. And Mandy says, good for you. Yeah, I like hot. So when I talk about how hot it is, I'm definitely not complaining. To me, this is a really good trade-off compared to cold winters. Like, I would much rather be boiling than freezing. So that's the trade-off for me. Okay, grab a pen and paper, or if you've got a good memory, just get ready to sit down and really listen. Okay, so we're going to talk about animal totems. Now, first, I'm going to give you a definition of how I define animal totems. Tony Leah says, hi Maya, hi there. Okay, so the idea of animal totems actually comes from Native American culture. And oops, hang on, gotta mute. Okay, comes from Native American culture, but there has been a reverence towards animals as there's been a reverence towards animals and an acknowledgement of animals as guardians since ancient times. So this is kind of a universal concept. So how I define animal totems is that it's like a spirit guide, but it's an animal. So this is a guardian, a guide, who is with you for your entire life. Now this is, to me, an animal totem I define differently than an animal teacher. An animal teacher, you may have different teachers that come and go. I'll go into that definition next. An animal totem is your main animal that is with you for your entire life. This could be an animal that you're drawn to, but not necessarily. In fact, a lot of times, like, people think that it's some cool animal, but it's really some other animal completely that they never even guessed. Because the idea is that each animal brings different qualities, different gifts, different strengths, different aspects into your life. And it's basically an archetype, right? And it's not always a cool animal like a bear or a wolf or a hawk. Sometimes people do have those animals as animal totems, but you know, your animal totem might be a mouse. It might be a fish. It might be something. It might be like some kind of bird, a blue heron, or like some other random thing. And not everybody has the animal totem of bear or wolf or hawk. Okay, so keep that in mind. It might not always be what you think. This animal totem, this animal guide, provides teaching, wisdom, strength, and it imparts its qualities to you. So if this is an animal that is a very loyal animal, or a very smart animal, or an animal that's very good at protection, or very good at stealth, or very good at surviving in adverse conditions. There's like all these different qualities that an animal can have, that it is gifting to you, that it's imparting to you. Now you can find out. So the second question, the next thing that people always ask me is, how do I know what my animal totem is then? So here's a few ways. You might have a dream, a very powerful dream about that animal. You might have a waking vision, which is like a dream, but it's in the day, or like it's when you are up and awake and not sleeping. You might also have a real life encounter. And sometimes people figure out their animal totems by using oracle cards. And I'm going to show you this right now, but I would say an animal totem is much more profound. And so, in my opinion, you might connect with some of your animal teachers through cards. But your animal totem, that's usually a more profound encounter. But while I'm at it, why don't I just show you the cards, just so you know what I'm talking about. This is a deck from like 25 years ago, so I don't even have the box anymore. This is the book that goes with it. It's called Medicine Cards, with a Native American etching on the front, and I think this is by Stephen Farmer. Let me just check. I assume it is. Oh no, it's not. It's not by Stephen Farmer. It's by Jamie Sams and David Carson. And so the idea is that you take the cards and you shuffle them, you mix them up, and spread them around, and then you pick which one I hope that didn't put me on pause. Somebody was calling. You pick which one you feel drawn to, and that might give you some guidance. Again, in my experience, your animal totem, your really, really important one, is probably not going to come to you through picking a card. Like, that's too simple. But you might be able to connect with some of your animal teachers, which I'm going to go into next. So I picked snake, and then you use the book Well, you ask yourself, what does snake mean to you? What do you think snake means? Okay. You know, it's about shedding your skin, transformation, and you look at the picture and you see all the symbols on there, and then you take that in and you use the book, you look it up, and that might give you some information about your animal totem or any particular animal teachers who are working with you at this time in your life. I also pulled out a couple of other decks just to give you recommendations. This one is Messages from Your Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen Farmer. He does write a lot about shamanism and animal and nature messages. So that's a good deck. And then we also have this other deck. There's a lot of animal decks out there, but this is The Secret Language of Animals, Oracle Cards by Chip Richards. And this one has a very different feel to it. There's a lot more wild animals. There's like sea turtles and lions and all sorts of stuff. Rhinoceros instead of just the Western animals. So each deck kind of has a different feel to it. So I told you that I was going to tell my story of my animal totem. And then next, I'm going to talk to you about animal teachers and what's the difference. We do have a few comments, so let me go through and read this. Maybe we do. Give me a second. Mandy says, oh my God, I believe mine may be a blue jay and one just flew into the tree near me. Yep, that could be. Sometimes they just show up in your world. And that's what happened to me, actually. Yeah. Okay. So that reminds me to tell you that usually with an animal totem, you don't choose them; they choose you. Okay. I think a lot of times, like when people have chosen an animal totem, and I don't mean any disrespect at all. Sometimes people will go to a retreat or something and they will pick an animal totem, and it's more something that they're choosing from their ego because it's a cool animal, right? It's like, that sounds really cool. I feel important because I have the bear as my totem. When sometimes it's actually a more humble or a different kind of animal than they realize. And remember that usually the animal chooses you, usually you don't choose it. So here's my story. I've shared this in a couple of videos a long time ago, but I'll go ahead and share it again since it is relevant. Hi Nick, good to see you. Hi Jeannie. So over 10 years ago, I was living out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. And I was staying in this little one-bedroom cabin. It was this little tiny place, about the size of a studio apartment, basically. It was this little cabin. It did have running water, and it had electricity, and it had a wood stove. It was a really cute little setup. I lived out there for a year and had an amazing experience out there. I really spent a lot of time connected with the earth, a lot of time just sitting out bare feet, really connecting, and it was so quiet out there. And as I'm telling this story, it makes me wonder if just being out there and really connecting so much for that whole year was what really aligned things so that I could have that encounter. So it was actually probably a month before I moved away. So I had been there for almost a year, and I had not seen, like, I didn't have any encounters with any wild animals most of the time that I was there. The cabin was in the middle of a clearing, so it wasn't like in the middle of a whole bunch of trees or anything. And I'm trying to remember if I even saw any deer. I mean, I saw a lot of birds and stuff, but I didn't see tons of wildlife all the time. Okay. So at the time I had 2 cats, and we had this morning routine that every morning when I would get up, I would open the door and I would let them out, and they would go run around for an hour or something, or they would just lounge around outside, and then after a while I would bring them back in. And the rule around there was that around 3 p.m. I always made sure that they were indoors, because there were a lot of coyotes in the area. And in that area, the coyotes never came around while it was daylight. They would only come out at dusk. Now here in Tucson, I've seen coyotes in the middle of the day just walk right by the house where I was staying. But in Kansas, out there, that wasn't what they did. So I felt pretty safe letting my cats outside, and they went out. And meanwhile, I had my yellow dish gloves on. I was at the kitchen sink washing some dishes from the night before, getting ready to make my breakfast, and then all of a sudden, one of my cats comes running in the door, and she's like, looks really panicked, and then like a second later, the other cat comes running in and looks really panicked, because I had left the door open. And I walked over, and I had my rubber gloves on, and I looked at them. I was like, what is your problem, man? What is wrong with you guys? So then I'm like, well, let me see what this is all about. I just wasn't like even thinking. I had lived there for a year, and it wasn't like a wild animal thoroughfare, okay? Anything like that. So I walked out the back door that they had just run into, and I stepped down the 2 steps onto the ground, and then I've got my gloves on. I'm standing there like this, and I come face to face, probably 2 feet, with a mountain lion. And the mountain lion is just sitting there on its back haunches. It's just sitting there. And this happened so quickly that I didn't even have a chance to say, like, oh my God, it's a mountain lion. It just happened. Like, I stepped down onto the ground, and suddenly I was in this moment where this mountain lion and I were eye gazing. We were just staring into each other's eyes. And I don't know how long this lasted, but I know that the mountain lion, I didn't feel any sense of danger. It just looked curious. It was just curious. And it was just very peaceful. And then, I don't know how much time passed, but then my brain clicked on, and I said, oh my God, there's a mountain lion. Get inside. So then I took a big leap, one big leap up those 2 steps, and then slammed the door. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And then I ran to the window, and I looked out the window, and I looked out every window, and then I opened the door again, but kept the screen door closed, and looked out. The mountain lion was completely gone. Okay. And what I did was I looked up what mountain lion energy means, and I don't have the whole description here, but it had to do with feminine energy and being a powerful leader, spiritual teacher. And I remember when I was reading about it, I was like, that scared me because I was like, oh my God, I couldn't, just the whole idea, mountain lion is so strong and can be ferocious, and at first I was scared of that totem. And I hadn't really stepped into the work that I'm doing now to this full capacity. Now it's like, oh yeah, mountain lion, totally, like that totally makes sense. Back then, I was still stepping into my confidence and acknowledging what it was that I was supposed to be doing. And so that just seeing how much power, like the mountain lion has a lot of personal power. And I had not fully stepped into my personal power yet. So that aspect was what kind of was scary to me. Like, oh my God, mountain lion, that's overwhelming. But then I told the landowner what had happened, And he actually didn't believe me. He said, we don't get mountain lions around here. That wasn't a mountain lion. It must have been something else. You were imagining it. And I'm like, no, I was not imagining it. And he pulled up a picture. He said, you must have saw a bobcat. He pulled up a picture of a bobcat. I said, no, it wasn't a bobcat. Pulled up a picture of a mountain lion. Yes, that's what it was. It was a mountain lion. And he still didn't believe me. Until like a week later, they found a dead deer on the property that the mountain lion had apparently killed. And by the way, gosh, it was amazing that my cats were not a snack for that mountain lion. But anyway, yeah, and I wasn't harmed in any way. I'm not recommending that you go and try to stand 2 feet from any wild animal, by the way. Please don't do that on purpose. But that's what happened to me. And then also, right after that happened, for that next week, I kept running into mountain lion imagery. I was over at a friend's house. She had a flag hanging up, and it was a mountain lion. And I'm like, why do you have a mountain lion flag? And anyway, I was just seeing it everywhere. And that was really cool. Actually, the place where I looked up the meaning of mountain lion is a website called whatsmysign.com. Whatsmysign.com. And she has explanations of the symbology of all sorts of animals, and I think other things as well. Let's see here. Anne is saying hi. Oh, Nick says, my computer is about to turn off and update. Gosh darn it. Yeah. I think my brain is boiling from the heat, so sorry, you guys. I sat outside for an hour before I did this class because I walked out. I'm like, oh, it's really nice. After about 10 minutes, I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty hot out here. I'm still getting back on track mentally. Jeannie says, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was an oh my gosh moment. And Anne says, what? Yeah. Yeah. So it took me several years to really step into that archetype of the spiritual teacher, spiritual leader kind of energy, with that level of, well, now it makes sense, really. I didn't know at the time that I had so much more personal power that I needed to step into that I hadn't yet. So has anybody had like a really powerful encounter with an animal where it just showed up at an unusual time? And I already mentioned this before, but I'm going to repeat that it might not show up in real life. It could show up in a dream or a vision. So it can happen that way as well. So if you live in the city and you're not out in the country very much, it might show up in a dream. Who knows? Or you may have had an encounter when you were young, or it may be an animal that you've had an affinity towards since you were young, or now, right? If you don't know what your animal totem is, you can ask that it be shown to you, and just set that reverent and sincere intention. And as you do that, that animal might show up in your life, or you might have a dream or some other encounter that happens that makes it obvious. Okay, let's read some more comments, and then we're going to talk about what's the difference between that and an animal teacher. So, Melissa says, I've seen a wolf out here, but a mountain lion, wow. Yeah. Mandy says, I've had dreams and messages around polar bears. That's interesting. How cool is that? So, the polar bear means, what that symbolism means. And have you sat with that meaning to see if it has something for you? Anne says, years ago, I was face to face, 18 inches apart with a black bear. Oh my God. and you survived. Were you camping? What happened? I want to know. Mandy says, however, birds, blue jays, a lot. I see them often and was my high school mascot and my son's school mascot. Yeah. So sit with it, or actually look up the meaning of blue jay. One of those animals might be an animal totem. The others might just be guardians and teachers for you. Okay, so what is an animal teacher, also known as an animal guardian? And this is very similar to an animal totem, but it's not, it's just not as intense, right? Could be an animal that shows up in your life for a particular reason. You might have a dream, you might pick an oracle card, like I just showed you the oracle cards, and you might feel like that particular animal is working with you right now with whatever you're going through in your life, okay? Or it might have a message for you, some wisdom for you. And Anne says 1 a.m. with the bear incident. It was sitting on the top step and I was on the porch, so it was wow at your house, looking eye to eye. I saw bears for a whole month, up close, 8 to 10 feet. Holy cow. Oh my God. And was that in Canada where you live now? Okay. I want to share an animal guardian story with you, but I'm going to give a little bit more information about what they are. So the animal guardian can come into your life for either a brief period or a long time. So this can be just an animal that you work with for a week or for a few years or for several years. It can be as simple as a hawk that flies overhead when you're sitting outside, or a ladybug that crawls onto your foot when you're sitting there connecting with the earth or meditating. So it doesn't have to, again, it doesn't have to be a wolf or a bear or a hawk. It can be, like Anne literally had a bear encounter, but it can be something humble like a ladybug, okay? So essentially there's a message or a lesson, or there's some strength or gift that they are imparting to you. Or it can be an animal that you call in intentionally to work with. I will give you an example right off the bat of this, that I intentionally work with, well, of course I work with the mountain lion energy, which is my animal totem. But a few years ago, I also started working with the Black Panther energy as an animal guardian, because I ask the Black Panther to literally eat any negative energy. So that is a protection guardian for me, this Black Panther. So it didn't show up to me in the same way as the mountain lion. Instead, it was an animal that I chose to call in and have asked that archetype to work with me. Okay, so I already talked about that. So let me give you the story. I haven't told anybody except for a couple of close friends about this. This is an animal guardian, animal teacher story. So last week, I had a really powerful dream. You know, sometimes when you have a particular dream, it just feels much stronger and more powerful than all the other dreams that you have. It's like just the energy feels really strong, right? And sometimes there might not even be really any plot to the dream. It's just a message. And that's what this dream was. So so in this dream, there was no plot, there was no story. It was just, I saw in my dream, I saw a deer, and then I saw the big antlers. And then I heard the message, this is the cure to COVID-19. So, and then I woke up and I was like, what? Like, well, I mean, it was so powerful, and I knew that it was significant, and I knew that it meant something. I'm still sitting with the meaning of it. But I did look up I did a Google search, and I looked up spiritual meaning of deer, and the first thing that popped up was this page that said that the spiritual meaning of the deer is all about peace on earth. And so again, I don't claim that literally the animal, the deer, that I'm not claiming that deer is in a literal way going to cure COVID-19, but there's some spiritual message there that I'm still unfolding, untwisting, and I'm definitely going to sit with that more. It definitely felt like a powerful message. And so on purpose, I've been really sitting with that archetype, that essence of the deer, to see what that message is. So also, this is a really good story because it illustrates that sometimes the meaning is not obvious right away. So we have to sit with it for a while and just let that animal's wisdom unfold over time. The other thing that happened was a couple days ago, I was in my kitchen and I was like, what? I looked there, it's like the May calendar that I have on my fridge has a beautiful picture of a deer, and I didn't even think anything of it. It's a calendar that I got for free at the laundromat. And I was like, I hadn't really paid attention to it. I'm like, whoa, there's another deer. And I was unpacking a box of stuff that I hadn't gotten to over last weekend. And it was some pictures that I had laminated. And I found this picture that my best friend had given me, I think for my birthday or Christmas. And it's this beautiful hand drawing that an artist had made of a deer with these beautiful antlers. And it looked very much like the dream that I had. And I'm like, what? Oh my God. I forgot that this was in here. And so I set that right by my bed just to encourage more of whatever that message is that's trying to come in, okay? So that's an example of an animal guardian or an animal teacher. It's not my lifelong animal totem like the mountain lion, but there's definitely some wisdom, there's some information there, okay? So, Anne has more of her bear story. Okay. Oh, wait, let's go back. Melissa says, when my son was born, there were two barn owls, I think is what that's supposed to say. Two barn owls in our tree out front. Yes, so maybe they were messengers. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, and that brings up another example that you might be indoors, but you hear an animal outside, a particular kind of bird or an owl. It could just be an animal that's passing by, or it could have some significance for you. Anne says about her bear story, we looked at each other, I yelled in the bear's face, turned my back to get the broom, and when I turned back to hit the bear, she was gone. Oh, well, thank God she didn't swoop at you when you turned around. Mandy says there is a mudra for the goddess Lakshmi, which resembles a deer. That's cool. All right. I think we've gone over anything. Is there anything else you guys want to share? So some people choose to work with animal totems. Some people are really drawn to that. And some people not so much. Some people choose to work more with angels, with spirit guides, or with the pantheon of gods and goddesses. I tend to be very earth-oriented, and so I love working with animal totems, animal guides, plant teachers. We might do another video on that. Plant teachers, crystal teachers, mineral teachers, all of that. So they all have something to teach us. We just have to pay attention. Okay, you guys, this was a fun topic. We went about 40 minutes. That was fun. If you watch this later, if you're watching the replay and you have a cool story to share, please do share in the comments. So many people have such cool stories of animal encounters, and I think it would be really cool if we were able to share those with each other and give everyone else the opportunity to hear that story as well. So just a reminder that if you want more, if you want to go deeper with me, then I encourage you to join my paid program, which is the 12-month online Spiritual Empowerment Academy. You can get more information about that on my website, which is psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And then let me talk about the freebies really quick. This Facebook group is free. This is Spiritual Empowerment Community Facebook group. If you're watching somewhere else and you want to join it, go ahead and join us. We have a free Facebook Live every month. I have another free Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and that's where we get into some really intense stuff, spiritual warfare, psychic attack, and paranormal stuff. And then if you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, go to youtube.com, type in Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and there's like more than 50 hours of free content and classes. So I hope you enjoy all the freebies. We have a couple comments, but I think we're winding down here. Nick says, that would be awesome about the earth teachings. Yeah, we'll maybe do that. Hey, I have a favor to ask you guys, since we're talking about earth teachings. So I took a big leap when I moved to Tucson, and I knew that I was supposed to be here, and I know that I'm supposed to be here. So I made a good shift. However, I'm still in transition from my temporary place to finding the right nature place for myself. And when I'm living in nature, I find I'm able to bring in a whole different level of information. And so I'd like to just invite you, if you feel called to, send good vibes for just everything to unfold where the right timing and the right place, and for everything to fall into place for the perfect spot. And those of you who've been watching my videos for a long time know that I used to do a lot of videos out in nature, and that's really not very easy to do out where I'm at right now. But if I found the perfect nature spot, then you all would get to not only hear interesting content, but be able to have like a beautiful nature scene that relaxes you behind me. So let's all set that wonderful intent for that to unfold perfectly, if you feel inclined to send good vibes to that. And thanks for your patience as I scroll. Jeannie says, thank you. You're welcome, Jeannie. Mandy says, thank you. Your spirit is very kind. You're welcome, Mandy. As I like to say, takes one to know one. Yeah. Thanks for the hearts, Anne. And Nora says, great information, Maya. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the hearts, Jeannie. So yeah, this information about animal totems and animal guardians is, I would consider it very like basic 101 information. If you want to go a ton deeper and be able to learn the skills for even like communicating with animals who are still alive and those who are on the other side, as well as a whole ton of other spiritual tools, that would be in the Spiritual Empowerment Academy. That's on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to seeing you next month. And hey, let me know what topics you'd like for me to cover in future classes on here. I'm not sure what I'm going to cover next, so let me know. Thanks. Have a great rest of your week. See you next time. Bye.